everybody's hearts are filled with the testimonies that you will hear today and what you've already experienced at this first summit. This is religious freedom and the rule of law under Xi Jinping, sponsored by China A. If that's not where you're supposed to be, and you're supposed to be somewhere else, then you can certainly take off now. So we are going to hear from some very poignant witnesses today. We have a couple testimonies that we'll start with, and then we'll have folks, bring testimony to you about situation in China, particularly how law is used to repress religious freedom in China. And we're going to start with some testimonies from victims of persecution. First, we have Li. He is the son of a persecuted pastor, former detainee, Yang Hua. And he is going to offer his personal testimony to you today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am very honored to be able to share my story here today. So today I will talk about some different aspects of the persecution that I have been facing through the China's persecution toward the religious freedom. So first I want to start with why do they persecute my family. So here's a little background of my family. My dad is the pastor of Livingstone Church, and our church is doing very well in Guiyang, Guizhou, China, and we do not work with the government politically. That's the reason why Chinese government starts to persecute us. And what does the persecution look like? So my dad got put into prison for 2.5 years, and also our church got taken away. And after my dad was released from the jail, he also was under close watching. So the government officials would follow him 24/7. We have 6 to 8 monitors in front of our door of our house, and it's just very excessive. And also they threatened my dad that if he does not work with the government, then they would hire people to go to my school to beat me up, or they would not let me go to college because I didn't pass the political screening. So my parents thought this would not be great, it's not ideal, so we needed to find a way out. So this comes to how we deal with the persecution. My family, my dad contacts Bob Fu and China Aid, and through many connections, I went through the visa interview twice, got the student visa I-20 3 times, and eventually I escaped to Hong Kong, stayed there for 1 week, and then I landed in Chicago. So that's how, just a brief overall of my experience, how I escaped from China. And so this is the part I want to talk about. I want to give more details. So how does this impact me as a child of a Christian family? So apparently it resulted in the separation between me and my family. I went through a terrible time during my childhood due to the persecution. So here I want to talk a little bit of the story of one of my birthdays when my dad was taken away. So because my dad is not like a regular person who just got put into jail, he was under like some special treatments, something like that. So for the jail, how it works is he can call the house, he can call our family once a month, but the time is not regular. So he can make a request to call the family, but it's up to the government to decide when to call. So like we don't have any clue that when my dad would call my family. So on November 17th, it was my birthday, and my mom has like letters back and forth with my dad. So my dad told my mom, oh, it's Ermek's birthday on November 17th. You need to like do something to celebrate. And my mom shared the letters with the church friends too. So like basically everybody knew, oh, today is Yinek's birthday, let's do something. But I was not a big party guy, so I was like, oh, why did this happen? It's so annoying. But but the thing was like, so at around 6 o'clock, many church friends were at our house, and we were just worshiping, and we had a fun time. And all of a sudden, my mom got a phone call from the government, and then we figured it was my dad calling. So my dad made a request earlier that month, but they were not sure whether he would be able to call me on like the exact date. But I resulted on like he just called me on the time, like 7 o'clock before we had dinner. So like everybody was excited, but we had to calm down. And then like I was very awkward because I didn't know what to say. It was like I was at my teenage age. I was like, oh, what should I say in this kind of situation? And because it was just awkward. And then I did like, so could you like sing me a happy birthday song? I thought that was like the thing that I could ask for in that situation. And my dad said, yeah. And then because my dad is really strong, like through my childhood. And then he sang me happy birthday song, but he didn't like make it through. So at the end, his voice started cracking and he burst into tears. And at that moment, I thought, oh, this is like a lot to take in. I could not like, even though like my dad was out in prison for 2.5 years, instead of me crying, my mom was the one who always like cried a lot in the nights because she doesn't want to worry me and my brother. So I was trying to pretend I'm strong, I don't care. But at that moment, it just something broke, and like all the negative emotions, like the sadness and the sorrow just came to me, and I started crying in front of like all the people. And my mom was scared, she thought something happened, and then she went to me and she heard my dad was saying happy birthday and she cried. And my brother he didn't know what was going on, so he saw both of us crying and he started crying. But it was really bad, and at that moment I thought, even though I'm trying to pretend that I don't care and I'm fine, but all of these things, this persecution that have been happening around my family has caused tremendous pain on our mentally. So based on that, my story and experience, my wish is that this could come to the end before it harms more family like mine who are pursuing religious freedom. So to the ending, I am grateful for the US government's efforts and everybody's help who helped to get me here. There are many other people being persecuted in China like this just because of their religions. Please stay focused on the issues happening around religious freedom in China and help the persecuted Chinese people to be able to contain their rights to practice their religions as US citizens are able to. So that's a little bit of my testimony. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ermek. Next, we have Gülzira Alkan, who is an ethnic Kazakh who was detained in what are called euphemistically re-education camps, mass internment camps. You heard Congressman Chris Smith say on the first day, concentration camps. These sort of horrific mass internment of Uyghurs and Kazakhs and other Muslim ethnic minorities in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China. Her testimony has been printed by the Globe and Mail and by the BBC. She gave powerful testimony. If some of you want to see it, it is preserved at the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission on Tuesday. And her testimony, which I'm not going to step on here, but her testimony was important for the US government's determination that there's genocide occurring, not just crimes against humanity, but atrocities occurring in that region. So I want to invite her up here to give her testimony. She's going to speak in Kazakh and be translated as well. So please welcome her.
сәлеметсіздер ме? Мен Гүлзира Хан, ұлтым қазақ.
Hello, my name is Gulzira Khan. I'm Kazakh.
Мен 2017 жылы Қытайда туыстар арқылы қағазға қол қойып берді, солардың алдап шақыртуменен Қытайға барғанмын. Сол жерде мені Қорғастан тұтқындап Қытайдың қоныс лагеріне жіберді, Құлжа аудандық Бейсанкөл деген жерге.
2017, my relatives called me to come back to China and sign some documents because Chinese police required him to call me. And while I back to China in Hargs custom, they arrested me and put me to concentration camps. And
Мен Қытай лагерінде жалпы 15 ай отырдым, 6 жерге ауыстым.
They put me into the concentration camp. I stayed inside 15 months and they sent me to 6 different places, the 6 different concentration camps in Xinjiang, China.
2018 жылы 7 айдың 2-4 орта мектеп оқушылар оқитын мектепті уақытша түрме қылған, сол жерде жалған топтық сот ашып, барлық ұйғыр қазақтарды 15 жылға, 20 жылға бас бостандығынан айырып, соларды соттай бастады.
2nd July 2017, they sent me to one of the concentration camps, the former number 4 high school in Ining County, Ili Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture, and they held one unofficial court and they sentenced the Uyghurs and the Kazakhs to 15 years and some of them sentenced to 20 years without any lawyer.
Ол Қытай түрмесінде мен қазақ болғандығым үшін қамалды, және де ұйғыр қазақты барлықтарым идеяларында мәселе бар, миларымды жуу деп тәрбиеледі.
They arrested me and put me to concentration camps just because I'm a Kazakh, and they sentenced millions of Uyghurs and the Kazakhs because they are Uyghur and the Kazakh.
Ол Қытай түрмесінде класқа бір күнде 14 сағат ЧЖП-ның рухын үйренесің, және класқа 2 минут қана дәретханаға отырасың, жатақта шелекте дәретте отырасың.
We have to study Xi Jinping's spirit and Xi Jinping's article for 14 hours in one day, and they give us only 2 minutes to go into toilet.
Егерде жатақта кішкентай жылап, я болмаса бет аузымызды қасып қалсақ, камераға түсіп қалса, сен идеяңда мәселе бар деп дәрет желегін басымызға төңкереді. Дәретханаға класста 2 минуттан асып қалсақ, басымызға электрондық тоқ таяқ, инемен соғу, жол бар орындық отырғызу, неше түрлі тоқ таяқтармен азаптау сияқты құралдарын істетеді.
If we sitting on toilet more than 2 minutes, they will torture us. They shock us using electronic button, and sometimes they put very bad torture and beaten us. A lot of things. I already reported a lot to Western media.
Ол түрмеде бір күнде 14 сағат бас ШЖП-ның рухын үйренесің, және де 3000 әріпті үйреніп болуың керек. 3000 әріпті үйреніп болған соң шығасыңдар деп айтады.
They said us we have to study 14 hours Chinese language in every day, and we have to study 3,000 Chinese characters. If we studied well 3,000 Chinese characters, they said we will get freedom.
Және түрмеде Қытайда туыстармен кездестіргенде қол аяғымызға көзді салып үйреніп жатырмын жақсы, менен алаңдама деген сөздерді бізге дұрыс түрде айтқызады, қол аяғымызға кісен салады.
And they chained us while we meet our relatives, and they forced us to say to our relatives that everything is okay in here, I'm just studying well, don't worry about me.
Және ол Қытай түрмесінде бізге кірген соң 3 айдан кейін бізге белгісіз тұмаудың дәрісі деп Қытай ақшасында 250 сомдық өкіл салған, және белгісіз дәрілерді салғызды.
Inside the so-called re-education camps, they forced us to eat so-called tablet called anti-flu, and they made a lot of unknown injections to us.
Баста біз өз жердің тамағына көне алмағанбыз, кейін өкіл салғаннан кейін өз жердің тамағына тоймайтын болып кеттік, содан туысқанның тамағы деп бізге шошқа етінде жегілді.
And at the beginning, we can't eat the food which offered by Chinese police, but after then they injected and give us unknown tablets, we began to eat more and more the foods which they offered us, and they offered us eat pork.
Бізде сұраған күзетшілер бізге болған полицияның барлығы ұйғыр мен қазақ болды, бізде ұрған адамдар да ұйғыр мен қазақ болды.
The police, most of them are Uyghurs and the Kazakhs who beat us, tortured us, and questioned us. All of them are Uyghurs and the Kazakhs. Most of them.
Екі қазақтың басын қоспайды, мен көбінесе ұйғыр, түрік, өзбектермен бірге болдым. Олардың бәрі шетелде туыстарымен сөйлескендігі, Қазақстанға барғандығы, Германияда туысына ассалаумалейкум дегенді үшін ұстағандар екен.
They didn't let two Kazakhs sitting in one cell, and I stayed with a lot of Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities. The crime is they visited the Central Asian countries or Turkey or say hello to their relatives outside of China. Just say Assalamu alaikum, the Muslim hello, Muslim, and that kind of words, they were arrested and sentenced.
Ол жатақтың ішінде күйеу өлген, ажырасқан ұйғыр әйелдер біз атын білмейміз, түнделетіп алып кетеді. Баста мен қайда кететінін білмейтінмін. Кейін жатақта мен 6 айдан кейін жатақтың тазалықшысы, яғни әйелдерді жуындыратын бөлімі мені тазалықшы ретінде істетті.
Married and unmarried young women girls are taken away at midnight, and at the beginning I don't know where they will go, but after then I found they sent to some secret rooms, and they let me to work that secret rooms, and I washed them, I showered to them.
Сонда ұйғыр әйелдердің жаны мәдер деп жылаған дауыстарын естідім, бірақ та қасында күзетшісі Қытай болғандығын көрдім.
And I saw the bodyguard is Han Chinese police, and I heard the Uyghur woman is crying.
Мен жатақ тазалап жатқанда бір Қытайға аяғыңызды көтеріңіз деп қазақша сөйлеп едім. Әлгі Қытай мен бұл жерге ақшамен келдім, қай жерге отыратындығымды өзім білемін деп маған солай қазақша сөйледі.
I cleaned this room, and while I cleaned, I saw one of the Han Chinese guy. I said to them in Kazakh because I can't speak Han Chinese, and I said, "Could you took off your food because I'm just cleaning?" And he said, "Don't say that. I'm Chinese, and I can. If only I like, I could sit anywhere, and I paid money to come into this place." And he said it to me.
Кейін мен камераға түс қалғандығым үшін сен ұлтқа айырдың, өкімет адамына қарсы шықтың деп мені 24 сағат жолбарыс орындыққа отырғызып, тырнақтарының көбігіне ине тықты және басына электронды таяқпен соғып бетіме күш ашты.
Because the camera is recorded all of my behavior, and they began to torture me and shocked me with electronic buttons.
Сонда жатақта көргенім, жатақтан алып шығып кеткен ұйғыр әйелдер, ұйғыр қыздар қайтадан жатақтан алып кеткен күнше қайтадан келмей, орнына басқа бір әйелдер, қыздар келеді, олар өздерінің лекциясын сөйлейді.
I saw Uyghur women never come back after they took away to another place, but next day the new Uyghur girls and women will come to the cell instead of them. We don't know where they are gone.
Кейінде үш ұйғырды меніменен төртеу бір қазақып, бізде жатақтың екінші қабатындағы 9 қанзыл, 8 түнген әйелмен жатқызды, олармен тіл үйренесіңдер деді.
After then they moved us to another cell with 3 Uyghur women, and after then 1 Hui Muslim woman and 9 Han Chinese women also.
Мен сол жақта қатты кешігіп кеткендікте мен Қазақстан азаматы жолдасым Тұрсынжан NAGYZ Атажұрт еріктілері адам қорғау орнына Серікжан-Гүлзираға арызданып, сол арқылы мен 15 ай дегенде түрмеден босап шықтым.
And I stayed 15 months inside the camps before my husband Тұрсынжан Исенәлі at Kazakhstan, and he through the Atajurt Kazakh human rights organizations help advocated for me, and the Chinese government have to release me.
Мен 2018 жылы 6 айдың 29 Құлжа аудандығы Яңшипин деген сен жақында кететін Қазақстанға барғанда сен біздің жақын адамыз бол үйреніш деп айтпа деп, осы Қытай маған 250 мың юан ақша берем деп айтқан.
Chinese Communist Party Secretary Yang Xinping said to me, the Communist Party will pay for me 250,000 Chinese yuan for kept secret the last 15 months which I inside the so-called education center, but I refused to take this money.
Мен ол ақшаны алмадым, сізге рахмет деп ол ақшаны алудан бас тартып, егер ол ақшаны алсам мен еркіндігімнен және айырылар едім.
I afraid I refused to take this money. I afraid I lost my freedom again if I take this money.
2018 айдың 7-сі шыққан соң қайтадан 2018 айдың 14-і мен құлдық жұмысқа алып шықты Құлжа аудандық. Киім тігу фабрика, жапан, жоба, қолғап тігуіне 3 ай үйренетін деп ол жерге зорлыққа алып келді және.
After they released me from the so-called education camps, they sent me to one forced labor factory called the Jafang Jovan Clothing Fabric located in Ili-Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture.
Ол жерге қол қоясыңдар, қол қойған соң ішкерге жұмыс істейсіңдер деді, ішкерден ақша аламыз деп бізге ашық айтты. Сол кезде мен күйеуіммен байланысқа шықтым, маған телефон беріп қойған, мені бақылауға алған. Сол кезде мен күйеуіме айтып, күйеуім Серікжан-Гүлзира арқылы айтып, содан мен зауыттан 3 ай дегенде босадым. Bir gün жер астына жатып шықтым.
Because they forced me to sign one labor agreement working as the inner province of China, and I sent this information to my husband because this forced labor factory, they give us the freedom to using mobile phone, and I sent all this information to my husband, Tursunjan Isenel, and he offered this information to Serikžan-Gүlzira, the founder of Atajurt Kazakh Human Rights, and I told the information about forced labor factory, Jafang and Jovan, and this information exposed to worldwide media in that day. Because of this, they arrested me and put me to the very secret jail for 1 day.
Мен 2019 жылы 1 айдың 7-сі қорғас келгеніне дейін әкеп қойды, бірақ та мен ол жерде Қазақстанға үйреніш барлығын айтпайтын, қамауға туралы айтпайтын, ауырып қалдым деп айт деген сөздерді айтып, барлық туыстарыма кепілдікке қол қойып, менің дауысымды, суретімді арғы оңынан солынан тартып, қорғас шекарасына әкеп қойды.
Chinese secret agency sent me to the Hormuz custom between Kazakhstan and China the 5th January 2019, and they forced me to sign a lot of agreements, and I agreed with them to keep secret, and I said that the last 18 months I'm ill and I'm sick, I'm staying in hospital, not in so-called education center. I agreed all of them, and I promised them I will keep secret for them.
Мен 2019 1 айдың 5-сі келдім, сосын мен күйеуіме барлық шындықты айту үшін Қытайдағы болған түрмелерді болған шындықты айттым, және өзімнің құқығымды қорғау үшін NAGYZ Атажұрт еріктілеріне рахмет айтып, Серікжан-Гүлзира айттым.
And after I arrived in Kazakhstan and I reunited my separated family at January 2019, I told all my experience to my husband, and after that my husband led me to visit Atajurt Kazakh Human Rights Organization and say thanks to all the team members, including Serikžan-Gүlzira, and I told them all of my experience inside the camps.
Мен Қазақстан азаматтығын алдым, сондай болса да маған Қазақстаннан қысымдар көбейе түсті. Өйткені Қытай үкіметі айтқан, Қазақстанда біздің адамдар бар, сен ашық-ашықтан жарияласаң, ол адамдар сенің қай жерде тұрғаныңды біліп, қайтадан Қытайға өткізіп кетеді деген. Бірақ та мен өз еркіммен ашыққа шыққан соң маған түрлі қысымдар күшейе түсті Қазақстанда.
After I exposed all my experience inside the camps, the Kazakhstan government began to persecute us and give pressure to us, and they give pressure to us, keep silence, and as the Chinese agencies told us, we have a lot of agents in Kazakhstan, even you are in Kazakhstan or any kind of corner of the world, we will arrest you again, and they threatened us, it is real in Kazakhstan. They forced me to keep silent.
Менің денсаулығым жақсы болмауына себепті бүткіл мемлекетте мен денсаулығымды тексерту үшін өзім көмек сұрағам, себебі маған өкіл салған және белгісіз дәрі салған.
because of unknown injections and unknown forced tablets which we taken, so I lost my health, and I needed to check up to my health.
Қазақстанда баспана жоқ, квартира жалдап отыратын, мен сол квартираға дейін мені сыйғызбады, қуғын-сүргін болды, соңымнан өмірімізге қауіп төнген. Мені Америка Құрама Штаты шақыртып алды.
And even in Kazakhstan, we can't rent a house for us. The government officials forced us to move from one village to next village.
Мен 2021 жылы 2 айдың 9-ы ақштың Даллас қаласынан мені болып, және сол кісілердің қызметтестері ақштың картасын алып қызу қарсы алды. Мен бұл кісілерге сүйіспеншілігім алғысым шексіз. Мен бұл күндерімді әсте ұмытпаймын. Өйткені мені бірінші Қытай түрмесінен күйеуім Тұрсынжан Есеналы арқылы, екінші мен ажал алдынан құтқарып шықты.
At February 2019, I successfully arrived at Dallas Airport in Texas because Mr. Bokpu rescued me from Kazakhstan and Turkey. I'm so happy. My husband and Atajurt rescued me from China, and Bokpu rescued me from Kazakhstan.
Мен бұл кісілерге алғысым шексіз. Мен осы жерге келген соң және арқасынан жалғасып 4 рет ауырдым. Не себептен ауырғаным қазірге дейін келген анықталмай жатыр.
Until now, I have been in hospital 4 times, emergency center, and even the experts, they can't find why I have so very bad and horrible pain. And the 4 times I rarely going to death, and it is very horrible. Until now, the experts, they don't know why I have so very horrible pain.
2021 жылы 23 неде менің қолғап туралы мына Американың келгеннен Қытайдың тауарларына тыйым салынғандығы үшін менің дәлелдің екендігі анықталды. Мен және де бұл кісілерге рахметімді айтамын.
American US border and custom protect confiscated all clothes made by Jafang and Joan factory, which I worked forcibly, and they listed these factories blacklist of American government sanctions. And that's all we offered to the world.
Менің соңында айтатыным, мені Қытайда бірінші балаларымды, туыстарымды бүткіл барымталап отыр. Олар түрмеге кірген-кірмегенін білмеймін. Мен халықаралық адам қорғау жағынан бірінші соны қорғасаңыздар. Екінші айтарым, Қытайда Қазақстаннан қашып келген және Қытай түрмесінен келгендер денсаулықтарынан ақау шығып отыр. Өйткені Қазақстанда қазір Қытаймен бірігіп кетті.
I have 2 wishes. All of my relatives, family members, also my daughters now in China, they was persecuted. I don't know even if they are dead or alive. We haven't any information. And also the thousands of former detainees like me, and now they're living in Kazakhstan under pressure. And all of them, they lost their health, but there are no any medical service for them in Kazakhstan. They are also dangerous in Kazakhstan.
Қазірге дейін менің телефонымнан неше түрлі қаралап мені Қазақстанға жаман көрсетіп, жалған жалаларменен жаман көрсетіп жатыр. Мен адам құқық қорғау орындарынан, әйелдер құқығын қорғау жағынан, балалар құқығын қорғау жағынан сіздерден денсаулығымды қайтадан қалпына келтіру жағынан көмектесулеріңізді, және де Қытайдағы Шыңжаң қоныс лагері 2026 жылға дейін деп айтқан соны тоқтатуларыңызды сіздерден арашалап көмек сұраймын.
Until now, the pro-Chinese powers in Kazakhstan and the pro-Kazakhstan government organizations blackmailed me and attacked me on social media and websites in Kazakhstan, and also a lot of former witnesses like me also in danger in Kazakhstan. So I wish the whole world pay more attention the former witness who living under pressure in Kazakhstan.
Мен Қытай түрмесінен өзім Америкаға келген соң мен сияқты қаншама әйелдер қиналып жатыр, қаншама Қазақстан Қытай елшісіне біздің қаншама қазақтар, ұйғырлар арызданып жатыр. Олардың өлтірілсе екен белгісіз, бірақ Қытай үкіметі жалған жаламен олар жақсы идеясында мәселе барлар, қылмысы барлар дейді. Оның барлығы қылмысы жоқ, алсандылықтарды қырып жою, нәсілін жоғалту болып жатыр.
I know a lot of Uyghurs and the Kazakhs released from camps. But because of a lot of reasons, he can't stand up bravely. The Chinese officials, medias, and the Chinese officials tell all of them who sent to the so-called education centers, they are criminals, but it is wrong. They are not criminals. They are Kazakhs and Uyghurs.
Мен Қытай түрмесінде отырғанда менің шашымды кесіп тастаған, шашымды бояп қойып, үйренуім жақсы деп айтып бізді өкімет адамдар келгенде солай билетіп бізге ән айтқызып қоятын әмәлиятта ол бір байлап қойса еш тұрмайтын жер.
Inside the camps, they cut my hairs and they forced me to say everything inside the so-called education center is good. And they forced us to tell the foreigners and the media to everything is good, and they forced us to dancing and laughing, playing, and all of this. We did it because the Chinese officials forced us to take it, pretending as an artist. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Wish all the world to pay more attention. Thank you.
I have read and worked in the field of human rights in China for 20 years. And I have worked on the issue of crimes against humanity and genocide in Xinjiang now for about that long and recently. And testimonies of Gülzira, and others are still an emotional gut punch. Still, I've seen hardened and reserved senators moved to tears by these type of testimonies. Gülzira experienced horrific, and Tursane, and so many others, experienced horrific human rights abuses because she was the wrong religion, the wrong ethnicity, had the wrong ideas, had foreign influence. It wasn't acceptable to the current Chinese Communist Party. And, I've been proud of what the US government has done over the last couple of years, and some of you know that the sort of Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act passed last night unanimously in the Senate, hopefully to move on. But if never again is to mean anything, there's always more that can be done to hold those accountable, or who are profiting from what are horrific crimes. We have a hard stop at around 2 o'clock. We're going to move to the panel of folks that are next. My name is Scott Flipsy. I am the Director of Policy for the bipartisan Congressional Executive Commission on China, which does work for the US government. We sort of are a think tank on human rights, and on human rights in China for the US Congress and for the sort of the administration. My disclaimer is that I don't speak for the members of our commission, who are senators and Democrats, as I am a staffer, but I do know that they have been very unified. And this is one of the few things in Congress that Democrats and Republicans are united on. That China, or the Communist Party of China, let's make that distinction between the Chinese people and the Communist Party, are a strategic competitor, and that horrific human rights abuses need to be addressed, not just in Xinjiang, but for others as well. So we are going to move on to our next panel, and they're going to sort of give their sort of testimony to you, and hopefully we can keep this moving along since we do have that hard stop at around 2 o'clock. First is the Reverend Bob Fu, Reverend Dr. Bob Fu. He is a friend of mine, and I've known him for many years, and is the leading voice, I think, in the world for the persecuted faith communities in China. He was a former student leader during the Tiananmen Square democracy movement in 1989. He was also a house church leader in Beijing until he and his wife Heidi were imprisoned in 1996. After being exiled to the US in 1997, he founded China Aid Association to promote religious freedom and the rule of law for all in China. Bob testifies regularly before the US Congress and other bodies, briefs policymakers and legislators on the growing persecution of people of faith in China, as well as refugee issues in the free world. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and editor-in-chief of the Chinese Law and Religion Monitor.
Thank you, Scott, as a real faithful, persistent voice and friend for the persecuted in China. And Congressman Wolf and fellow panelists and friends. We come here really as a united force for freedom. We have different ethnicity. We have Han-Chinese, Kazakhs, Uyghurs, we have Americans, we have Chinese, we have French, we have different nationalities, we have different, language, skin color. We have different faiths, Protestants, Catholics, Falun Gong practitioners, and Tibetans and Muslims alike. But we are united. We have never seen, I think Congressman Wolf can testify that, right? For your years in Congress, we have never seen such a unity among the different persecuted communities who are persecuted by under the Chinese Communist Party regime. We are united because we have a common goal, is freedom. Is freedom. When I got the text message middle last week from Gүlzira, of course it's in Kazakh language. I have to immediately go to the Google translator and found she was saying, "Brother, I'm dying, I'm full of pain, I'm looking for a place to rest my soul." I was immediately, of course, raced to the house, our local church provided for her and her family, and tried to find what had happened. I knew she was sent to the emergency room a number of times in Midland, Texas. The filtered the screen and the tested and couldn't find anything or source of pain. And this time when I got there, she was literally scrambled on the floor, basically could not move. And Serikjan, who was in another room, basically said she was like dying. I was honestly not sure whether she could make it to today's, to the DC meeting. But this is just really just one out of one, or the Pentagon estimated could be as many as 3 million. Some may not ever have an opportunity to come out, as she just alluded that many women and girls were taken out, never returned. I think time is the essence. We have enough talks about, really heard enough sufficient testimonies that this is the worst time on religious freedom, rule of law, under this evil regime. The real question is how to do and what to do. And I think united together to save, of course, anyone that we can, that is a more passive route. We continue will do. I constantly, every day, receive the requests from Kazakhstan, from China, from even part of the European countries who fled to Eastern Asia countries. Please, Pastor Bob, help rescue. But there is a root problem. I think how can we, terminate, end this 21st century genocide and this evil regime that continue to bully the whole world. So when my good friend Chen Guangchong, the blind self-taught lawyer, we all witnessed when Congressman Wolf and Smith were try to get his voice, basically to hear from him directly after he walked out of the embassy and put in a literally Chinese hospital as a jail, hearing him telling me, my children, little children, they're starving, no food. That was the moment I think his freedom comes. That was the moment I think we all should embrace. And I want to really hear other panelists. It's not only in China. We also have a former Hong Kong legislator who was also persecuted, facing imminent threat, and thankfully he got rescued too to the United States of America. Thank you for coming over and to continue to build the unity. Let's work together to free all of them. Yes.
Bob's too shy to say it, but his biography called God's Double Agent is available on Amazon right now. You can pull out your phones if you want to buy it. And also if you want to read more about religious freedom in China, the China Commission that I work for, www.cecc.gov, has an annual report chapter on religious freedom. And so you can find that there about current conditions in the last year. Our second panelist is Serikžan-Gүlzira. He's a prominent Kazakh human rights activist and advocate for ethnic Kazakhs and other minorities held in detention camps in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. He's the founder and director of Atajurt. Okay, we're going to be close. I'll get close enough to that. I can't speak Kazakh. Atajurt Kazakh Human Rights, which has interviewed thousands of relatives of detainees for those detained who have provided firsthand experience of their camps in Xinjiang. As a result of these efforts, Atajurt is one of the most comprehensive and reliable firsthand resources for information about China's detention program in Xinjiang. After a brief imprisonment for his advocacy, Gulash fled to Turkey and is now in the US. And I've seen some of the testimonies that he has compiled, and they are very compelling. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Serikžan-Gүlzira. I'm born in China. I'm born in Xinjiang. 20 years ago, I immigrated from Xinjiang to Kazakhstan. I'm a Kazakh. I'm the member of one ethnic minority who called the Kazakh ignored by whole world and ignored by all media. By Chinese official statistics, there are 1.5 million Kazakhs living north part of Xinjiang. There are one prefecture called the Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture, and the Chinese official statistics also said only 10 million Uyghurs living in Xinjiang. But we believe that around 3 or 5 million Kazakhs living in the Kazakh Autonomous Prefecture, maybe 20 or maybe 30 million Uyghurs living in Xinjiang. After we immigrated to Kazakhstan, we found the ethnic minorities, the immigrants from Xinjiang in Kazakhstan more and more. After then we found there are almost half million Kazakhs immigrated from Xinjiang to Kazakhstan the last 30 years after Kazakhstan get independent. And we focused on this 500,000 Kazakhs who born in China and immigrated to Kazakhstan. We collected around 30,000 video testimonies from these 500,000 ethnic Kazakhs. And we are the first team in the world who exposed the genocide and the concentration camps to the world. A lot of people think Kazakhstan maybe helped us, not yet. We fighting, until now, we fighting in one time, in same time, in two front line. In front of us, Chinese Communist Party, and the backside of us, Kazakhstan government. Because there are no one independence country called Kazakhstan now. After Xi Jinping regime began, whole Kazakhstan is ruled by Chinese Communist Party. Chinese Communist Party ruled our oil and gas, our all of mines, and also our real estates and all side of our country. They ruled everything. And the Kazakhstan government now, just like Chinese government, they persecuted all of our team members, arresting, put some jail, and threatening. Last 5 years, from the end of 2016, my team and I rescued tens of thousands of former detainees from Chinese concentration camps, including Uyghur women, Tursunay Ziaudani. Тұрасыз ба, Tursunay? And she's a lady. She's a worldwide eyewitness who told the world about gun rape, sex rape inside the concentration camps. And we rescued Mrs. Gülzira. She is also worldwide famous eyewitness who told the gun rape, sex rape inside the so-called re-education camps and forced labor factory. Because of her activities, the world know the forced labor factory without salary, and their products, U.S. Customs and Border Protection sanctioned the factories, and also unknown tablet and unknown injections, medical and chemical experiments which did to the prisoners, all of them. We have around 1,000 eyewitnesses like Mrs. Gülzira and Mrs. Tursunay Ziaudani. We rescued more than 200 Uyghurs because of their relatives, families are in Kazakhstan. We rescued around 500 Kyrgyzs because they visited us and they recorded the video testimony openly and secretly. We rescued tens of thousands of them. And most of them, they afraid because of the pressure Kazakhstan government and the Chinese government. And we also have around 100 eyewitnesses. Now they are living in Kazakhstan under pressure. So we wish the whole world pay more attention to us. I have one dream. I want to bring them to US and let the CCC record the testimony and the whole American media report their history. Because we recorded 30,000 video testimonies last 5 years. Some villages we driving cars and some villages we driving horses with our cameras and the notebooks. Because we are nomadics. We are nomadic and thank you everybody, thank you for paying attention. My name is Serikžan-Gүlzira. If anybody want to interview or pay attention, you could find Mr. Bofu and China Aid. I thank you, Mr. Bofu, because he rescued me from Kazakhstan and rescued Mrs. Gülzira from Kazakhstan. And I thank you, America. God bless America. Yeah. Thank you.
It occurs to me that even though we had witnesses tell us who are victims about their recent experience with the Chinese Communist Party and persecution, all three of these gentlemen have experienced in some way, some level of persecution. So we are going to hear now from Bajio Yung, who is was born and raised in Hong Kong. He founded the political party Youngspiration after the umbrella protest in Hong Kong of 2014. He was the first of two pro-independence Hong Kong activists who were elected as legislators in Hong Kong in 2016. I think you got the most votes, right? Did you get the most votes? Okay. Youngspiration got the most votes, I think, ever in alleged co-elections, and then forcefully disqualified by the CCP afterward. After being released from custody, he's now in exile, living here in Washington, D.C., where he founded the NGO Hong Kong Liberation Coalition to continue his fight for the liberation of Hong Kong. Bye,
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, China Aid, for having me here to sing a few words here. This is 2021, and 100 years since the founding of Chinese Communist Party. For Hong Kongers, it is undoubtedly our humiliation day. 24 years ago, the handover of sovereignty in 1997 was the beginning of China's suppression of Hong Kong, regardless of the desire of Hong Kong people. And in 2020, a dangerous and ridiculous so-called national security law was launched and introduced in Hong Kong. Once again, no Hong Kong people was asked before that. And after these two critical days, Hong Kong has deteriorated from being known as the Pearl of Orient to a city of pain and fear. You may have heard that the CCP recent repression in Hong Kong, the city has been swallowed by police brutality, mass arrests, selective law enforcement, abuse of procedure, and appalling sentence. So-called rule of law that created by the evil regime. What is the rule of law so far in Hong Kong right now? 55 pro-democracy activists were charged with subversion simply because they participate in a primary election. This is so-called rule of law in Hong Kong. Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our time was once the slogan that created by four of us for our election campaign. But now it is a bandit chain in Hong Kong. This is so-called rule of law in Hong Kong. Apple Daily, a pro-democracy newspaper, also a listed company in Hong Kong, was forced to shut down 3 weeks ago. More than 10,000 protesters have been arrested since 2019, but the man who attacked Epoch Times reporter Sarah Leung in Hong Kong is still free and unidentified in Hong Kong. And this is rule of law in Hong Kong. After countable rounds of mass arrests, most Hong Kong activists are either now in jail or in exile. In addition to silencing well-known activists, the truth behind the scenes is even more frustrating. Every day, when we wake up, the first message on our screen is usually who of our friends being arrested, and other friends being sentenced to jail, or another court case has been appealed by the regime because the regime simply wants the heaviest punishment. The Chinese Communist Party just want to wipe out an entire generation of Hong Kong. Take myself as an example. I was charged in the local assembly and was jailed for a month for such a ridiculous crime. And when I was released, I noticed that some people was always following me. We don't know who they are, but usually that is a bad sign because you are on the regime's radars again and nothing good follows. That's Hong Kong right now, a city of white terror under the evil CCP regime. And now I'm on the wanted list again, subversion, because I'm doing advocacy work here in Washington, D.C. And I must reiterate here that China expansionist and coercive behavior are not only a problem for Hong Kong, not just for Asia, but also a threat to international order and democracy around the world. From the denial of responsibility for spreading the CCP virus, to the Uyghurs genocide, to supporting the massacre by the Myanmar military. They all show that the leading role of the United States in dealing with the China problem has never been more important. And I want to quote my good friend Sam Chung to conclude my opening. Sam is the father of a baby yet to be born, and is now in jail, facing a maximum lifelong prison sentencing, simply because he participated in the primary election. He said that, "Let Hong Kong believe become your faith." Hong Kong is a place where all kinds of religions exist. I'm a Catholic. I have friends who are Christian, Muslim, Falun Gong. At the end of the day, we may differ in the religion that we commit ourselves to, but a fundamental belief that exists in all of our heart is that Hong Kong should be a city where we can have the freedom to practice any and all faith without fear. And for this, we should fight till the end. Thank you so much.
If you had asked me 10 years ago if there would ever be prisoners of conscience in Hong Kong, I would have told you that was not even possible. And now we've got dozens, and maybe more to come. It's something to watch as we move forward. Our next speaker is Congressman Frank Wolf. He served for 17 years in the House of Representatives, from Virginia's 10th District. He's the author of the International Religious Freedom Act of 1997, which infused religious freedom into U.S. foreign policy by creating the International Religious Freedom Office at the State Department, headed by an ambassador at large. He also established a bipartisan independent U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, or that legislation did. Congressman Wolf founded and served as co-chairman of the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. And he continues to work advocating for human rights and religious freedom around the world. And he has legislation named after him called the Frank Wolf International Religious Freedom Act, which in 2016 extended the sort of authorities that were started in 1997. Mr. Wolf.
Well, thank you very much. The time is running out. I'll be brief. You all have, if you're willing to, the ability to make a difference, not just to learn about it, but to be something. And I think those are real tests that you're going to have. Your conscience should be really pierced by this. President Reagan said that the words in the Constitution and the words in the Declaration of Independence were a covenant. A covenant, not only with the people of Philadelphia in 1776 and 1787 when the Constitution was ratified, but Reagan said it was a covenant with the entire world. It was a covenant with all the people in China. You have the ability to do something. During the Reagan years, and I was pulled in with Ronald Reagan, no law firm, no lobby firm in the city, no law firm, no lobby firm in the city would have ever represented the Soviet Union. I remember once they tried to do it once and Reagan spoke out. Reagan spoke out and shut them down. And they never did it again. Now this town is full of people, full of lobby firms, of former members of Congress and high-ranking officials that lobby for the Chinese government and lobby. Hikvision. Did you see the Washington Post piece? Hikvision has former Republican and Democratic members lobbying for them. Hikvision, that was probably the cameras. If you claim you really want to do something, the cameras for the camp that she was in may very well be. They're cameras. So I'll be very brief. No law firm, no lobby firm should represent them, and you should do everything you can to make sure that that never happens again. There's many things you can do. Time is too short. No member of Congress ought to take any money from any law firm that's lobbying for the people that are going to make the cameras that she's going to be in the camps. No law firm, no lobby firm. They knew to come together because they have tremendous power. You think you have power, you can't get into the meeting sometime. They can go on the House floor. They can go on the Senate floor. They make political contributions. So, too long to get in detail because they said they had a hard fix at the time. You should all come together, working with one or two groups to come together and make sure that any law firm refuses them. Because when Hikvision is trying to get something, and if there is a firm that takes Hikvision, you then tell every Republican and every Democrat you should not take any money from any law firm that's involved representing anybody that's involved in persecuting the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, the Uyghurs, the Falun Gong. You know they're taking kidneys. They're taking kidneys. Harry Wu showed me the pictures. They're taking kidneys of people and selling the kidneys. So I think that's what you have to do. Find a group, find an organization, and ask them respectively. Drop their client. If their client's involved in anything having to do with genocide, and I snuck into Tibet in the early 90s, there's genocidal activity. They're eradicating the Tibetan culture. Lhasa is no longer a Tibetan city anymore. They've literally come in and changed. So tell them they cannot take any money, they should not represent them, and if they do, you will do something about it. If you miss this, I mean, I'll tell you, in a way, here are these people that are in the camps. And you live here in the United States with all the freedom. You literally, honestly, have the ability to shut this down. And I'll close with this comment. I believe that the Chinese government will fall. In 1984, I went to Romania. And I was so impacted by what I saw, and I pledged to pray every night for the Romanian people. And God bless Ronald Reagan, he really got involved in the Chinese government. Will do the same thing to the Romanian government. It will fall, and we hope it will fall peacefully. But in that interim, make sure that you do everything you can to help these people. No law firm, no lobby firm, Republican or Democrat should represent any company involved in any genocide activities. And if there are out there, no member of Congress, Republican or Democrat, should take a penny from any of these. And lastly, no congressional office or no governmental office ought to meet with any of these lobbies. They should be shut out.
That's right.
If they want to be retained, they should be retained. Nobody. And we should ask President Biden to do what Ronald Reagan would have did. To make sure that his entire administration, nobody politically in the Biden administration ought to meet with these people and ought to take their telephone calls. You can help bring the end of this if you have the guts and the willingness to really make a difference. You're free. She is now free. Let's make everybody have the same thing where they all have the same freedom.
We actually made the request for the President Biden to meet with those survivors of the camp. So far, still silent. Declined.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Boom.
Well, on that rousing note, on that sad note, you have your freedom. Go out and exercise it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
If those survivors, we did a quick photo with Congressman Wolf. Can we come over? Grace, is Grace still here?
No, she's
Good.
not here.
Take a picture.
Here, watch out. She's gonna get it.
We also risk the stuff.
She's also a concentration camp survivor.
Yeah.
Photo right next to you.
Regarding Hong Kong, we sing Hallelujah to the Lord along with you.
Yes.
Protesters.
Wait, one more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, get in there.
Baya.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right, Bob.
I watched the turnover when they said it was going to be freedom. I watched his movie. Wow. Okay, thank you.
Nice to meet you. We could get thousands of supply from Kazakhstan. It is not easy to let the world and American government understand because we first rescued them from China. Now they are living in Kazakhstan because of Kazakhstani government pressure.
We need to do together.
We have to go to the next
Telling
room.
about their history.
Yeah, we'll get together with you.
Kazakhstan government arrested me and put me in
Yeah.
jail 6 months because of American government pressure. I get freedom.
Everyone will be having an event, another one on China, and on Taiwan and its role. It'll be in the next room.
Congressman.
Congressman. At 3:15. Thank you.
Go.
Gezet sürecini tutuyor kalıyor. Atıştın mı? Ha, tutuyor kaldım. Ya. Böyle. Gülziracılar masabır. Nice to meet you. Мына кісіні мен таныстырайын. Мына кісі біздің ең алғашқы concentration camp туралы ақпараттарды жазған адамның біреусі. Оқу бейнесінде.
Can you take a picture for us? Stay. Let me take a picture.
I know. No, I'm just. I know that. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's stop. Yeah, call me.
You got us all? Look up. Awesome. Oh, more. Thank you. We have to go out now.
Yeah.
No.
We'll be there for the reception.
Тоқта мен тоқтатайын.
那个方向
Окей.
我们 我帮他写过很多新闻。
Мына кісі жаңа Окей, we all go. Мына кісі біз туралы өктегі ақпарат жазған алғашқы адам. Алдыға түсіп жүрсің? Менің де сумкам қалып қапты, аласыз?